السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. الحمد لله رب العالمين وصلى الله وسلم وبارك على خاتم الأنبياء والمرسلين وعلى آله وصحبه والتابعين ومن تبعهم بإحسان إلى يوم الدين. أما بعد، رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقه قولي. آمين رب العالمين. Now, the next episode that we have in front of us, you notice that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, after talking about what side one should pick, because every one of them have their own destination and where they all belong, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala decides to show us what side He is on and what He wants from each one of us. I want you to just imagine and remember yourself. As a child, once when you were quite young, your parents, didn't they sit you down maybe with your siblings and all together gathered around, and they would relate to you stories of their forefathers, ancestors, or maybe themselves from what they've learned. And far and beyond, you notice that you take from the good things that you've learned, good experiences, and from the mistakes that were committed by the ancestors, we learn that we have to stay away from them, isn't it? Now, when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives us examples and explains to us, for those who have God consciousness, those who will be grateful to Allah through their worship and their actions, just like Ibrahim alayhi salam, the ending would be the most beautiful ending. But for the ones that who reject the existence of the Lord Himself, you end up finding that their destination wouldn't be the best of destinations. That is very clear, especially when you read in Surah Ibrahim at the very end, وَأَنذِرِ النَّاسِ, and warn people, يَوْمَ يَأْتِيهِمُ الْعَذَابِ, the day that the adhab will literally appear to them, it would approach them. فَيَقُولُ الَّذِينَ ظَلَمُوا, and those who have literally wronged themselves and made mistakes, what would they say? رَبَّنَا أَخِّرْنَا إِلَىٰ أَجَلٍ قَرِيبٍ, O our Master, do delay us to a ajal which is quite close. Basically, give us more time. نُجِبْ دَعْوَتَكَ وَنَتَّبِعِ الرُّسُلِ, so that we can respond back to your call, and at the same time we will follow the messengers. لكن أَوَلَمْ تَكُونُوا أَقْسَمْتُم مِّن قَبْلُ مَا لَكُم مِّن زَوَالٍ, isn't it you made a promise before and you were given a portion of that time, yet you never made use of it and you wasted it and you are ungrateful? And we don't want to reach to that level, isn't it? And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in this following juz, as you look into it, beginning with Surah Al-Hijr, Allah clearly begins by explaining Alif Lam Ra, Tilka ayatul kitabi wa Qur'anim mubin. That are the signs of the book, that which is read and quite manifest, because Quran comes from the word qara'a yaqra'u, from reciting, literally reading. Quran is not Quran as in Quran in itself. We call the Quran Quran. The book of Allah is known as Quran. Lakin the reason why we call it Quran, sometimes we call it Mushaf, why? Is because Quran is for constant recitation. Hence it's a book that requires reading. Wal ulama, and the scholars, the ulama, they say that mankind learns through three ways. And the three ways are that one of them be min kitabin mastur, they learn from a book that which is written. On top of that, they learn from the signs which are manzur, basically the five senses that we have. They learn from that which they observe, that which they hear, that which they can literally touch, smell, and all of those. But far beyond, they learn also from the maqdur, that which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has already destined for them in life. And one of the main things that Allah has destined for us, for mankind, is to live a life where there is a balance. And everyone shares this. We have a day and we have a night. Allah has lavishly created for you and I the day and the night, as He explains in Surah An-Nahl. Now, before Surah An-Nahl, in Surah Al-Hijr, He clearly mentions about the previous prophets and the examples of those who denied them, how Allah did away with them and He eliminated them on the earth. Now, when He does this, is to make clear for us that what path should we take. And on top of that, He tells Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. By the way, this is a huge problem which the Muslim Ummah today is struck with. Wealth has nothing wrong to do with anyone or anything. Lacking the fact that we have embraced wealth, that is where every problem rises from. We look at success as material. More wealth, more material, more goods, the more success. That's how we determine our success. We have took our deen and attached it with materialization. And once you do that, khalas, this deen becomes materialistic rather than becoming a deen of sacred knowledge and a deen of divinity. There's no such thing as divinity, no sacredness. That's all out of the window right now. Because as long as we don't get a return, khalas, we are always going to be those people that, why is this not working? وَمِنَ النَّاسِ مَن يَعْبُدُ اللَّهَ عَلَى حَرْفٍ فَإِنْ أَصَابَهُ خَيْرٌ اطْمَأَنَّ بِهِ وَإِنْ أَصَابَتْهُ فِتْنَةٌ انقلب على وجهه خسر الدنيا والآخرة. These are people that have made the deen to become materialistic. When Allah has given them goodness, they say, MashaAllah, this deen has done good for me. And when Allah takes away that good and afflicts them a little bit with a little trial, they start turning against Allah. Instead of going close to Allah, knowing that Allah is calling them towards them, the next thing they do is they turn away. لكن اعلم كما يقول العلماء, mankind should always learn and know that the fact their faculties are not only their hands and maybe the senses that they have, and the touch, the smell, the see, the sight, the hearing, but far beyond. And they need to understand that Allah has destined for them. That is part of their life. They cannot really deny it. And this book that today is read, one thing that we have to understand, it's a miracle in itself, is the fact that every single Muslim who knows the brother or they don't know the brother or the sister, whoever is around the entire world, whether we know each other or we don't, different races, different background, different areas, different nations, I promise you, none of us will come and read Surah Al-Fatiha differently compared to the other one. Unless the other one has a different script other than the one that is common. وَلَقَدْ يَسَّرْنَا الْقُرْآنَ لِلذِّكْرِ فَهَلْ مِن مُدَّكِرٍ إِنَّا نَحْنُ نَزَّلْنَا الذِّكْرَ وَإِنَّا لَهُ لَحَافِظُونَ. That's as Allah promised. We are the ones that revealed and brought down the reminder, which is the Qur'an, and we take the promise permanently to protect it till the end of day, the end of life basically, the end of this world. And imagine that, if you look at it in that sense, you end up realizing that we need to expand our horizons of understanding. Allah tells us in Surah An-Nahl as He begins, وَالْأَنْعَامَ خَلَقَهَا, and Allah created the animals, the cattle. لَكُمْ فِيهَا دِفْءٌ, you literally take covering out of that. وَمَنَافِعْ, and also benefits that you attain from them. وَمِنْهَا تَأْكُلُونَ, and you eat from them. And on top of that, from the bees and the honey that literally are extracted from all of these type of other animals that exist out there, we have delicacies out of that, delicious food. And you also notice that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala explains to us, also from the animals that we have, you have from the cow, you have labanan khalisa, even from the goat, where there is blood, where there is urine, where there is feces, there is flesh, there is all of the najasa that you can mention, saliva, each one of those, but within all of those, Allah releases a pure, benefiting, nourishing type of drink, and that is milk. Imagine that. If Allah gives all of those to us, who are we to deny and turn away from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's call? Now, going back to the analogy of a parent, you end up realizing that when a parent is literally talking to their children, what do they say? They tell you that, my son or my daughters or my children, your forefathers were doing this and this and this, and guess what? These were haram. We have to stay away from them. Sometimes you even will come up with banters and jokes. You crack a laugh out of that. Trust me. What would you do? You come up with a joke, and everyone that is there will get to enjoy every bit of it. But then at the end, the parents literally tell you, don't do this, don't do that, stay away from this. Remember, just like how they failed and made a mistake from your own relative, you don't fall into their traps and don't become like them. Learn from their experiences. Hence, you find that كُلَّمَا تَقْرَأ, the more you read, the more you learn from other people's lessons, the more experience you attain. Basically, the readers say, the more of history you read, is as if you've lived in those times. If you read history of 100 years onwards that has passed, maybe 3-4 centuries ago, it's as if you've lived all those years, because you get to learn from the bits and bobs of these people where you can perhaps implement those lessons in your life. But beyond that, you end up finding that those parents, when we leave from the gathering, and maybe from the nasiha, or maybe the lovely tales that we've received from our parents, just like how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala provided to us in Surah Al-Ra'd and Surah Ibrahim and Surah Yusuf and even Surah Hud and all of those, parents end up monitoring our movements. And every time they monitor every step we take, the next thing that happens is the fact that you notice they are very aware of every single movement we make. And when we make the wrong move, you end up finding your parent telling you, all right, stop. That's your limit. You shouldn't cross. That's it. That's where you draw the line. And why do they do that? Whereas you feel like you have complete free will to do everything. Yes, you do. Like there are things that you know, even with the free will that we have, the so-called free will, liberty of doing everything, there are things, if you do them, there's still a law that governs you. And when parents guide you, end up realizing, oh, if I do this, it's wrong. Meaning to say that the parent themselves, the parents, they have already chosen a side. The side that they've chosen is the side of goodness, the side of good ethics, good conduct, and even positive behavior when you're dealing with others. And at the same time, truthfulness. It depends on whatever it might be that one might be doing. Like what you end up realizing is the fact that even Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala makes it manifest to you and I. Allah says, وَإِن تَعُدُّوا نِعْمَةَ اللَّهِ, if you are literally to make account of Allah's blessings, لَا تُحْصُوهَا, you will never come to an end on counting them. إِنَّ اللَّهَ لَغَفُورٌ رَحِيمٌ. Why is there a correlation between maghfirah and also the favors of Allah and counting them? Is because of this. When mankind sometimes want to sit down and think about how much they have given Allah in return of the goodness that Allah has given them, they end up realizing the fact that they have not yet done enough. They still need to do more, because I'm not going to take you far, let alone the day and the night. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala talks about how He created man. We created man min nutfah, thumma min alaqah, ثم من مضغة مخلقة وغير مخلقة لنبين لكم. We created man from just a drop of blood, and at the same time he became what? After becoming a clot, a clinging clot, the next thing he became a flesh. That flesh was as if it was not created, not yet complete. Then Allah put a bone in it, and that bone grows with the flesh. And on top of that, Allah breathes life, sends an angel to breathe life in it. And once life is breathed, and at the same time the ruh is in the body, there's a soul now, and the soul is breathing, the next thing you end up realizing, we become the way we are right now. We were once nothing, Allah has made us to become something. And not only that, Surahannahl explains something magnificent, far beyond what our minds can fathom. Every single type of goodness that Allah mentions as a favor, talking about وَسَخَّرَ لَكُمُ اللَّيْلَ وَالنَّهَارِ, Allah has made the submission of the day and the night for mankind. وَالشَّمْسِ, and also the sun and the moon, وَالنُّجُومِ, and the stars, مُسَخَّرَاتٌ بِأَمْرِهِ, they have literally submitted for mankind. And on top of that, Allah says, وَهُوَ الَّذِي سَخَّرَ الْبَحْرَ لِتَأْكُلُوا مِنْهُ لَحْمًا طَرِيًّا. He is the one that facilitated the bahr, the sea, the oceans, so that we can eat from the prey, from the flesh that comes from it, the lovely soft flesh that we find from the seas, which are from fish and far beyond that. And not only that, you find from there وَتَرَى الْفُلْكَ مَوَاخِرَ فِيهِ وَلِتَبْتَغُوا مِنْ فَضْلِهِ. The sufun, the ships, trade routes, the ships that pass by for trade reasons, for businesses, or maybe for travel reasons, you notice that they are there and they have submitted to mankind so that they can travel easily. Let alone that, وَأَلْقَى فِي الْأَرْضِ رَوَاسِي, we have literally placed on the earth pillars, and those are the mountains. أَن تَمِيدَ بِكُمْ وَأَنْهَارًا, on top of those pillars and even further than that, you end up noticing that Allah talks about the rivers. وَسُبُلًا لَعَلَّكُمْ تَهْتَدُونَ, and several paths so that you can be guided. وَعَلَامَاتٍ وَبِالنَّجْمِ هُمْ يَهْتَدُونَ, and signs such as what? The nujum. If you look at the nujum, which are the stars. If I remember one of my grandfathers, basically, and Allah yarhamuhuma, they have already passed away, both of my grandfathers, may Allah bless them where they are, forgive them their sins if they have committed any sins, and if they have any goodness, may Allah preserve them for them. You notice that they used to explain to us sometimes when they would travel from city to city, if they are not able to find their way, perhaps the stars will show them the path. Think about it. They didn't have electricity like us today, or maybe boards on the roads, that signboards that show us, if you want to go to Birmingham, you take this route. If you want to go to the M6, you take this route. If you want to go down to Birmingham, take the M40. You don't get all of those. Today we have a navigator such as Google Maps, or you have Waze. We use all of those. Imagine. Our parents didn't have all of those, our forefathers. And they used to use the skies, they used to use the moon to guide them throughout their path. And Allah mentioned this in the Quran, but they can appreciate it more than us because we are deluded with technology. And because we have deeply invested in technology, we feel like it is the solution for every single problem. Whereas we need the survival of the universe in order to submit to the survival of mankind. If you look at the planets out there, the Earth is right in the middle. You have Jupiter, you have Mars, Mercury, Saturn, all of those. All of those, if you find them around outside on the outer atmosphere today, some of them are far on the dark side, some of them are literally on the far end of the light side. And some of them are near the sun, some of them are literally not even very close to the sun, not whatsoever, to a level where it's extreme cold. Imagine that. But this earth is right in the middle. But did you know that each one of those planets are literally there to serve this earth so that it can orbit in the most beautiful manner as it orbits around? Think about it. That's how Allah has created this universe. He created the universe just for mankind alone. But this same mankind will come. ضرب الله مثلا عبدا مملوكا لا يقدر على شيء. Allah gives an example of a servant that literally does what? That servant is owned under the possession of a malik, of a master. And on top of that, that servant does not have any qudra of anything, does not have any ability to do anything. وَمَنْ رَزَقْنَاهُ مِنَّا رِزْقًا حَسَنًا فَهُوَ يُنْفِقُ مِنْهُ سِرًّا وَجَهْرًا هَلْ يَسْتَوُونَ. And the one that we gave them the best of rizq, and they are literally constantly giving out on that rizq that we provided them, would they be the same? Similar to the one that literally does not have an ability, and the other one has the ability and is literally using their ability to do what? To serve Allah. Would the one who does not have any ability and the one who does have ability be the same? Of course not. Like in Allah provides another example, وضرب الله مثل الرجلين أحدهما أبكم لا يقدر على شيء وهو كل على مولاه أينما يوجهه لا يأتي بخير. But there is another one that literally, this man, two types of people. One of them, if you guide them towards a path, they don't even have any khair. If you look at them, you take them this way, they don't bring any benefit. You take them to the other side, they don't even have any profit to bring back to you. Would they be the same as the one who وَمَنْ يَأْمُرُ بِالْعَدْلِ and the one who commands justice? Of course not. وَهُوَ عَلَى صِرَاطٍ مُسْتَقِيمٍ. A man that literally you decide to guide them, you tell them, take this path, you benefit in this business. If not, go this path of knowledge, you become a knowledgeable person. You take them to business, they don't have any benefit. You take them to knowledge, they don't have any benefit. Everything that you're spending on them is of waste. Now, a man that lives on this earth, or a human being that lives in this earth, without understanding and recognizes that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the one that's providing for them, has facilitated the entire universe to serve them, is similar to these type of people. Different to the one that is trying to live on justice and always tread on that path which is steadfast. Those are two different people. But when Allah strikes these examples, He strikes them for a reason, to show us what path to take. Just like the example of the parent. When the parent relates every single story, they don't just relate the tales and the stories for us to learn from them, but to show us, look, the path that you should take is this one. And if you're going to take a different path, I am not going to stand with you. A young child at the age of 5, what do their parents do? Their parents perhaps might ground them, put them on timeout, or maybe take away the things that they love the most. But when you are an adult, your parent won't tell you, don't come to my home. And they wouldn't resent you per se, but they wouldn't be happy with you either. Whenever they see you, they are sad because of the illness that the ill acts that you are committing. And not only that, you are transgressing the boundaries of Allah. And perhaps you might not even be giving them their rights, which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has spoke about very dearly in the Quran. And He literally put them very close to His worship. Imagine that. A person that literally does not recognize the favors of Allah upon them. The fact that, imagine people that are in Iceland today. In Iceland, there are days that there is no night. It's literally daylight throughout. Basically, if mankind does not have darkness, they will go crazy. They will lose their minds. They might go through madness because you cannot sleep. You can only sleep through the dark. I can tell you, us here in Britain, sometimes when it's summer and the night is very short and it doesn't even get fully, the night doesn't become a full night, completely dark, sometimes we feel as if we have not rested properly yet. Why so? It's because we don't have a full night. First of all, the night becomes very short, and second of all, you notice that it's not a complete dark night. The bodies are not well rested because it's not within the nature of man to sleep at night and it's not totally dark yet. All you have to do is just make an estimation. That's not what mankind can do to survive. Hence Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has made that this earth is created on a balance. Everything is created for a reason that mankind can thrive on this earth. And if they don't understand this, then with what would they understand? So Allah's side is the side of those who are literally grateful to Him. Hence He mentioned at the very end of the juz by saying about Ibrahim alayhi salam, shakiran li an'umih. First of all, He said that Ibrahim kana ummah. He was an ummah within himself. Why so? Because he understood Allah. He understood the mission given to him. And every single command and test that Allah gave him, he beautifully and perfectly fulfilled each one of them without complaining for a single moment. Hence Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave him the best of promises in return. And from his progenies appeared prophets like Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, Ismail, Ishaq, Yaqub, Musa, Yusuf. Each one of them, they are the descendants of whom? Ibrahim alayhi salam. Imagine that. That is a blessing in itself, because blessings are not only the ones that we can see with the eyes today, but that which we leave behind for tomorrow, so that our generations to come can enjoy them. I can tell you a simple example. Majority of the times we claim that wealth is evil, right? Of course wealth is evil, because once it penetrates the heart, it's difficult to remove it. And the fact that it's difficult to remove it, one allows wealth to consume them so deep and so much to a level where whatever they do, they serve wealth. They wouldn't do anything for the sake of Allah if it has no return in it. That's how far people have gone today, especially us in the Muslim world. Lakin, if you look at wealth as a means to an end, you can say, Alhamdulillah, if Allah blesses me wealth, I will invest this wealth so that I can have the time to learn, and my progeny, they can be a people of knowledge, and when they grow up to even take care of themselves, they don't have to worry about working so much. All of what they have to do, Allah has blessed me with halal income, not any type of income, halal income. And because I have halal wealth and investments, my progenies can benefit from this. And what I need to do is instill and embed in their minds the idea that this wealth is just a means to an end. Use it so that can benefit you, and for those who will come after you, they can benefit also. The wealth grows and knowledge grows, and you have an entire generation of knowledge that serves Allah with every single facility and faculty that Allah has provided them with on this earth. That is true gratefulness. That is true gratitude to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Imagine that. I remember there's a town in Mecca, not in Mecca, in Saudi. If I'm not wrong, it's Ahsa, and this was a history related to me. A man returned back to his own mother town, basically motherland, and he went there, and the people that were there, first of all, there wasn't a huge population, and there was a lack of knowledge. There wasn't enough knowledge yet. If I'm not wrong, I believe this is the story about it. And this man returned with a mission of making his people knowledgeable. Today, if you go there, you notice that that town or that city is a city of just knowledge. Literally, the city calls you towards knowledge. There are so many learnt individuals. There are ma'ahid. There are also madaris. There are jami'at, kulliyat, all of those. Universities, colleges, institutions, madrasas, schools, and all of them people are learning constantly. Fuqaha, ulama, they exist up to today. And some of my scholars, alhamdulillah, Allah has blessed me with, is that and some of the scholars, those scholars, they are from there. Imagine that. Majority of the scholars that I've been able to interact with, those scholars, you find that their scholars are from there as well. That is a blessing indeed. It only took one man for Allah to bless with a mission, and he took the mission very dear to a level where he was able to leave behind a legacy. People that are learnt, people that have wealth, and they're living this earth with ease, mashallah, tabarakallah. Now, if you understand that the purpose of this earth is to thrive on the path of Allah with gratitude, you end up living that way without attaching yourself to this world. The reason why majority of us lack the idea of understanding the fact that everything is facilitated for us to survive and nothing will stop us from earning and surviving and also living a normal life like anybody else is the fact that, as one scholar was asked, what makes people turn away from the topic of death, or when they hear about death, they fear it the most, is because they have literally built this world so much to a level where they've made it to look as if it's eternal. Now, the deep investments and the amount of investments done for this world is for one reason: for people to live a very good life. That they've built so much for this world and they've ruined the hereafter. And because they've ruined the hereafter, they fear that they are just going to receive that which they have ruined for the hereafter. That's why they fear death so much. And you and I don't want to be in that position. But what side has Allah chosen? Allah chose the side that which He says at the very end of Surah An-Nahl, Inna Allaha ma'al ladhina taqaw. Indeed, Allah is with those that are conscious of Him. وَالَّذِينَ هُمْ مُحْسِنُونَ. And those who are muhsinun, perfect in their worship to a level where when they pray perfectly. When they give out charity, they give out the best of charity. When they deal with people, they deal with people in the best manner. Hence Allah mentioned the verse before that. What does He tell Rasulullah? وَاصْبِرْ وَمَا صَبْرُكَ إِلَّا بِاللَّهِ. Bear patience, and your sabr, your patience is not going to be perfect without Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. وَلَا تَحْزَنْ. And don't be saddened at all. وَلَا تَكُ فِي ضَيْقٍ. And don't be in a position of tightness, that your heart and your soul is so tight in your chest. مِمَّا يَمْكُرُونَ. Against that which, from that which they are plotting. Why is He saying that? Because Allah is saying, on this earth, as long as you're holding on to the path of Allah, all you need to do is be conscious of Allah and act with perfection. That's what you need, with perfection. Because down the line, people are going to hurt you. You're going to be struck with afflictions. Calamity will approach you. And you're always going to be through trials. But remember, your response has to be perfect, and you have to hold on to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Everything that you do, be conscious of Allah, and on top of that, be perfect on your conduct. That's the only way you'll be able to succeed. Hence Allah talks about sabr more than 100 times in the Quran. But what makes it even more perfect is the fact that Allah talks about sabr, then He talks about the side that He has chosen Himself. It is very clear that Allah has chosen the side of those who are sacred in themselves, and they are holding onto the rope of the divine. And for you and I, that's the side that we need the most, especially in the month of Ramadan. It's much easier to connect with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We don't want to be on the wrong side of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and we want to be on the right side, isn't it? But how do we live this earth while we worship Allah the right way? I want to relate to you one last verse, and then we're going to talk about this in our next juz, inshaAllah ta'ala. Allah says, وَاللَّهُ أَخْرَجَكُمْ. And Allah extracted you مِن بُطُونِ أُمَّهَاتِكُمْ, from the wombs of your mother, لَا تَعْلَمُونَ شَيْئًا. And you did not have any knowledge whatsoever. وَجَعَلَ لَكُمُ السَّمْعَ. Then He placed for you the hearing, وَالْأَبْصَارَ, and the sight, وَالْأَفْئِدَةَ, and hearts. لَعَلَّكُمْ تَشْكُرُونَ. Perhaps you will be able to be what? To be grateful. أَلَمْ يَرَوْا إِلَى الطَّيْرِ مُسَخَّرَاتٍ فِي جَوِّ السَّمَاءِ. Have you not observed, after Allah providing you all of these faculties, He mentioned in the next thing, have you not observed the fact that you look at the bird, how it flies on the earth, on the atmosphere of the heavens, how it does so? مَا يُمْسِكُهُنَّ إِلَّا اللَّهِ. Nothing holds them except for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. إِنَّ فِي ذَلِكَ لَآيَاتٍ لِقَوْمٍ يُؤْمِنُونَ. Indeed, in those signs, they are signs only for the nation that literally are a believing nation. The question is, why would Allah mention faculties such as the hearing, the sight, and the heart, rather than the intellect? There's a reason behind it. and we need to understand why so. In the next juz, Allah manifests it very, very clear, and He makes it very easy for us to understand why He mentioned this verse in Surah An-Nahl and Surah Al-Isra. He would elaborate it in the most beautiful manner, inshaAllah ta'ala. Wa sallallahu wa sallam wa baraka ala nabiyyina Muhammad wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in.